OpenAI released its ChatGPT and Whisper APIs. That is great news. That means we can now programmatically access the functions of ChatGPT. So let's see what we can do with it. Okay. So in my previous session, I introduced like how to fast build a ChatGPT Q&A bot. But by that time, I just using the GTP 3.5, the DaVinci model APIs to building the question and answering bot. This time, let's do exactly the same thing, like for like, but we just using the ChatGPT API instead of the DaVinci API for the Q&A bot building. Okay. So just like a quick review, like what we have been done previously. So in my last sessions, I introduced like the multiple options to customize a GDP model. Either we can use in the fine tuning or a prompt engineering. So fine tuning is actually you have to retrain a pre-trained GTP model. Basically, you need to actually to using your own data to customize the model's hidden layers, the neural networks connections, width and the bias to let it to pick up the new knowledge, okay, specific to your domain. So that is actually a bit like the costly and the time consuming, and you have to agree to to spend money on that. So another option is actually the prompt engineering. This is some like a fast and more efficient option in my point of view. Okay, so basically what happens is that fundamentally, like any generative AI, ChatGPT, the generation the text, and actually any generation is controlled by the conditions. Okay, that is super important and is applicable to all the generative models. Okay, so that means if we can just like to agree to change our prop and inputs and give some more like the condition control, then you probably get some like a better outcome from like the GDP outputs. In this sense, any relevant and good output of the GTP model really depends on the input quality. Okay, and if you give us like a more like the context and so on, essentially the GTP model will able to actually give you the better answers. Okay, for a question. So let's see like how can we just like take advantage of this generative AI characteristics to actually to enable some interesting service for ourselves. Okay, and overall, this prompt engineering is fast to market and it has more, cost saving feature. Okay. So this is the different options for fine tuning. We just skip it, and the fine tuning cost as well. So by the way, so compared to the the original like the pricing, the fine tuning cost or like all these GP models. Now ChatGPT is actually bring down the fine tuning cost like only to 1/10 of the original cost. That give like the much the even more like a competition power to the optimized GDP models. For example, normally you spend like $300 to fine tuning a model. Now you maybe only take like $20-30 to train your fine tuning model. But that is another topic. So we are going to touch about the fine tuning option the other day. Today, let's going to focus on the prompt engineering option. Okay. So okay, let's actually to do some faster hands-on lab. Okay. Let me to introduce it. Okay, so this is the some like the hands-on notebook. Okay, again we're using some like open public available dataset, which is 7 Health Hospital QnA, the FAQ database, which I download from the Kangol, the data science, the website. So basically, we're going to using the OpenAI's embedding and the completion APIs. Okay, so embedding APIs basically is actually just help you to create some embedding vector for the text and query. Okay, and then you can see like the OpenAI's second generation, the text embedding ADA002 is actually the current like embedding model being used and to replace all the previous the 16 first generation embedding models. And then the the API is actually used to actually to return the answers to any of your query and the question. So in our previous session, we are using the Text DaVinci 03 model and API. Okay, now this time we are going to using the latest, the GTP 3.5.2, which is actually the model behind the scene to power the ChatGPT. Okay, so that is the model and the API we are going to using for today's exercise. Okay, let's start. You can see I just like replace the DaVinci model using the ChatGPT model, okay, for the computation and using the same embedding model as well. Here again, I just like for security purposes, just like to remove my API keys, and you can always like to get free and your own API key and to replace this placeholder here, and you can run in the whole notebook. Okay, and okay, that's it. And let's go in so to the this is all the utility functions. So and okay, so you can see like this is some like sample questions. My report are in the regional language. What do I do with the 7 Health Hospital in India? So this is actually just like the replies, by the out-of-box ChatGPT model and API. So it looks like this ChatGPT model is have produced like a little bit better, the response than the previous DaVinci model. Okay, but however, here the caveat is no matter how plausible it looks or sounds from the ChatGPT reply, you cannot trust it in the first instance because this is not necessarily the case for the 7 Health Hospital. During like the pre-training, the self-supervised learning stage of the the GTP model, so it actually is building some statistical correlations among the words. That means the properly like once it's in the hospital, it can just like remember like from its training data all the other hotels, the information, and then it actually to maybe just provide this answer, according to the training data about other hospitals. So that is not necessarily the true, for this specific hospital. So that is some like air safety and the reliability, the issues we have to taking care of. So in this case, the very simple and straightforward technique we can improve it is using the prompt engineering. Okay, for example, here we just simply add some safety note. Okay, if you are not sure, just say I don't know. Just tell the AI that. Okay, and you can see AI now is actually to become the more truthful and more honest. That's it. Sorry, I don't know. Okay, that is great. So that is exactly what we want. The AI to actually to avoid to generate any like the makeup, the answers, So that is actually could be misleading sometime. Okay, so right. Okay, so and also we can do something even better. Besides add some safety note, we can give also like some like the relevant context. So actually to better instruct the ChatGPT to give the more relevant and the correct answers. So for example, this is some like the context info I found from the 7 Health itself, the QnA. So then let's actually to enrich and augment the prompt using this additional context info and then ask the same question. So this time you can see the ChatGPT is able to return some more specific and the correct answer exactly from the 7 Health Hospital. Okay, so that's great. Okay, so in the following, we are going to actually to demonstrate this kind of the approach, some like the design patterns, which is using like the both prompt engineering and the embedding, the vectors technique to actually to enable us to building some QnA bot. Okay, so the steps is just it's like exactly the same as like previous sessions, just 4 steps. In the first step, you need to calculate the document embedding vectors. So this is actually the one-off exercise. That means if you get some like the QA the dataset document, or if you got some like a knowledge database, then you just need to actually to create the embedding vector for every each record or the text chunks in your knowledge database to use it as like the the document search database. So once you actually build it one off, then during the runtime, upon the reception of any new query, you just like to create some embedding, the vector for the new query, and then you compare the query's embedding vector with every each, the embedding vector of the historical record in your document search database. Okay, and then you're able to find some like what is the top, the top 3, top 5, the most similar, the record to this query. And then in the third step, you just prepend the most relevant, the record as like additional context info, to enrich and augment the query prompt. Once done all these 3 steps, and finally, you just like call the completion API to actually let the ChatGPT return the answers to your question. That's it. Okay, so I'm not going to look into the code step by step because this is just like a duplicate like from previous sessions. You can just always refer to the previous the session. Also, all the notebook and the code is will be upload and available for you to look, and you can just like to run it and to actually to to repeat the what I'm doing here. And what is even more important, for your own specific dataset and use case, just feel free to replace the 7 Hills Hospital dataset with your own dataset to do this kind of the interesting like the exercise, and you are able to build in some fast, the QM bot in just like the 1 hour, for your own use case. That is okay. And yeah, okay, so that is some the notebook, and let's actually get some hands-on to say how it looks. So for this purpose, this is my Python script. Basically, as I said, I just copy paste some relevant the functions from notebook into this Python script, to test like the ChatGPT API based like the QM bot. Okay, so you can see like the end of like the script, we just insert several like the Streamlit API calls to quickly to actually convert some data science notebook into some like the interactive the data app, web app. So that is could be like the the fast way for us to do like the data science work, and then just like showing some our prod work into anybody else as like some data service and applications. Okay, so let's actually to to see how it goes for this the ChatGPT the API based question and answering bot. Okay, so let's actually the QnA bot. We are using the proper engineering and embedding to quickly fast prototype. Not just like running Streamlit the app in the command line. Okay, just running this Python script. Okay. Yeah, second, the Streamline app will be up and running. Now you can just ask any specific question to this hospital. Okay, so I just prepare some sample questions like the how to travel from airport to the hospital. Okay, this one. So just like send the query, and this some bit delay to actually to submit the query and get a response from the openai GDP API. Now we got the answers. You can see this is the specific answers actually the provided by the hospital, and it's actually the thanks to like the additional like context info, and actually we provided in the prop to actually to give us a better input. Then the better quality input will result in the better quality of the output for the answers. So that is true for the any generative AI models, including the ChatGPT. Okay, so you might ask if can we just also try the out-of-box ChatGPT API? Totally straightforward. It's very easy. I built another Python the script, just like the calling it out of box. For this kind of thing, that is not conditioned by our specific domain data and the context. Okay, so we can do it. Then we just stop this app and then streamlit run another out of box. The Python script. Okay. Okay, you can see now we got our the streamlit for using the out-of-box ChatGPT API and model. Okay, so in this case we can ask any question about this word. Okay, so for example, this is some like questions I came across in my daily life, and I want to know how to open a can with a spoon. Okay, just waiting a second, and we'll get some answer from the openai GDP the API call. Okay, so this is the answers. You can see like very detailed step by step the answers. This is great, and this is actually what I want. Okay, to solve my daily problem. And then so overall, as I said, you just feel free to agree to download and working on your own data and use case to agree to produce your own QnA bot for your specific use scenario. That could be very exciting. You can just have some lots of hands-on and to learn and practice, and even building some like the interesting piece of work to show to your friends and family. And okay, and yeah, so that's it. And just quick like the recap. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and then to actually to download and just like to practice with this kind of the simple but efficient technique or the proper engineering, the conditioned, the ChatGPT, the generations, and better for answer our own specific questions. Okay, thank you, and talking to see you next time. Okay.